I took the maintenance job because it was underground. That probably sounds strange. Most people want work with windows, daylight, fresh air, a door they can walk out of without climbing 3 flights of concrete stairs and badge scanning through a service hatch. Not me. At that point in my life, I wanted something hidden. I was 31, newly broke, sleeping on my cousin's couch in Cicero, and trying very hard not to admit that my life had become smaller than I could explain. I had done warehouse work, night cleaning, janitorial contracts, parking garage security, and 1 miserable month unclogging grease traps in restaurant basements. So when I saw the posting for an overnight maintenance assistant for a private contractor servicing old Chicago transit infrastructure, I applied before reading it properly. The listing was vague in the way bad jobs always are. Overnight, facility maintenance, transit service, access, Chicago Central District, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. No public interaction must follow site instructions. Hazard pay included. Hazard pay should have scared me. Instead, it made me click faster. The contractor was called Northline Municipal Services, though the man who interviewed me made it clear they were not the city, not CTA, not Metra, not anyone I could call when something went wrong. Private service contract, he said. We maintain areas the active system doesn't use anymore. His name was Mr. Kroll. Not first name, not Mike or David or Anthony, Mr. Kroll. He was short, thick-necked, and pale, with tired eyes and a mustache that looked like it had survived several decades of bad decisions. We met at a diner near the river, not an office. He ordered black coffee, asked if I was afraid of rats, confined spaces, electrical rooms, stagnant water, or working alone. I lied and said no to all of them. He slid a folder across the table. Job site is below an abandoned station. Below? I asked. Service levels. How many? Depends which map you trust. I laughed, because I thought he was making a joke. He did not laugh. The site was an old station beneath the loop that had been closed to passengers sometime in the 1970s. According to Kroll, the public platform had been sealed, but the sublevels still contained utility junctions, drainage pumps, cable runs, storage rooms, relay boxes, and old service corridors connected to active tunnels. Why does it need overnight maintenance? I asked. Water intrusion, power checks, rodent control, structural logs, trespass monitoring. People break in? People go down, he said. Breaking in implies they know where they're entering. I should have stopped there. I should have asked more. Instead, I asked about pay. Kroll named a number that made my stomach tighten. Cash bonus for completing the first week. Extra if I stayed the full month. He knew exactly what kind of number a desperate person would hear as permission. I took the job. My first shift started the next night. Kroll told me to meet him at 9:15 p.m. behind a closed furniture store on Wabash, near an alley entrance that looked like it led only to dumpsters and delivery doors. I got there early. Chicago was cold that night, wet in that late fall way where the wind seems to come off every building at once. The elevated tracks rattled nearby. Cars hissed over damp streets. Somewhere above me, a train screamed around a curve and threw sparks into the dark. Kroll arrived at exactly 9:15 in a white van with no markings. He didn't greet me. He handed me a hard hat, a reflective vest, a flashlight, a key ring, and a gray badge on a retractable clip. Put these on. I did. Then he led me to a steel door recessed into the alley wall behind a dumpster. There was no sign, no handle on the outside, only a small black scanner half hidden under grime. Kroll scanned his badge. The door clicked open. Warm air breathed out. Not fresh air, underground air, dust, metal, concrete, old water, a smell like pennies and wet stone. We stepped inside and descended a narrow concrete stairwell. The sound of the city faded behind us with every step. By the time we reached the first landing, the trains above were only a distant thunder. By the third landing, even that was gone. A sign on the wall read, "Municipal Service Access, Authorized Personnel, Only No Public Egress." Someone had scratched beneath it, "No public anything." Kroll noticed me reading it. "Don't stop on stairs." Why? Because you'll start listening. I kept moving. At the bottom of the stairwell was a service corridor lit by humming fluorescent tubes. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Old cables sagged in metal trays. The concrete walls were painted beige halfway up, though most of the paint had peeled into dark flakes. Water dripped somewhere far off, steady as a clock. Kroll walked fast. He knew the corridor well enough not to check the signs. I followed him past locked doors, utility cages, an old break room with no furniture, and a wall map sealed behind cloudy plastic. Most of the map had been faded by time, but I could make out lines, platforms, maintenance passages, and a large shaded rectangle labeled Lake Morgan Lower Station, closed to passengers, 1978. Kroll saw me looking again. "What's Lake Morgan?" "The station." "I thought there's no Lake Morgan station." "Not anymore." We reached another locked door. This one was heavier, bolted steel, painted red once, though almost all the color had worn away. Kroll paused with his hand on the key. "First thing," he said, "never prop this door open." "Okay. I don't mean don't leave it open. I mean don't prop it. If it stays open by itself, let it. If you force it open, something else gets to decide when it closes." I stared at him. "That's supposed to make sense?" "No," he said. "It's supposed to be remembered." He unlocked the door and opened it. Beyond was the abandoned station. I had seen old Chicago train stations in pictures before. This one looked like the city had buried a memory and forgotten to finish killing it. The platform stretched into darkness on both sides, tiled walls stained brown with water and age. Old green columns held up the ceiling. The tracks ran beside the platform, black rails vanishing into tunnels north and south. No third rail covers. No ads except a few yellowed posters behind cracked frames. The old station name still existed in ceramic tile along the wall, Lake Morgan. Half the letters were missing. A few fluorescent work lights had been strung along the platform, plugged into temporary power. They flickered constantly. Not enough to go dark, enough to make everything look like it moved when it didn't. On the platform near the service entrance sat a folding table with a radio, a logbook, a toolbox, laminated maps, water bottles, and a dented metal lunchbox. "This is your station," Kroll said. "I maintain this? You monitor it. That's different." "Yes." He pointed down the platform. "North Tunnel connects near active infrastructure. You do not enter the track bed unless procedure requires it. South Tunnel is sealed at the barricade. You do not cross the barricade. Pump room is through that green door. Electrical room is behind the old fare booth. Storage is under the east stairwell. There are cameras at the platform ends, pump room, service entrance, and track bed. Are they recorded? When they work. Do they work? Sometimes. He showed me the pump room first. It was small, hot, and loud, with 2 drainage pumps, a sump pit, rusted pipes, and a control panel that looked older than me. Water trickled into the pit from a pipe in the wall. The pump kicked on every few minutes with a violent shudder. "Pump A runs normal," Kroll said. "Pump B is backup. If both stop, you call me, then follow flood procedure." "What's flood procedure?" "You'll read it." Then the electrical room. Rows of panels, disconnects, old fuses, newer breaker boxes, and warning signs about high voltage. Kroll pointed to one panel covered with a locked metal guard. "Do not open that." "What is it?" "Old signal tie-in." "Still active?" He looked at me. "Active isn't the only thing wires can be." I hated that sentence immediately. The last area was the old fare booth. It sat near the sealed entrance stairs, glass cracked but intact, turnstiles frozen in place behind it. The booth door was locked from the outside. Inside, I could see a stool, an old rotary phone, a clipboard, and dust thick enough to look soft. "If the phone rings," Kroll said, "don't pick it up." "It's connected." "No." "Then how would it ring?" He didn't answer. Back at the folding table, Kroll opened the dented lunchbox. Inside was a set of folded instructions. Not a binder, not official procedures. Just loose pages, different sizes, written by different hands, some in pen, some in marker. One on the back of an old time card. He placed them in front of me. "At Lake Morgan, instructions outrank common sense." I looked down. The first page said, "Lower station maintenance instructions left by night. Crew read before first round, do not skip, because something sounds impossible." I looked at Kroll. "No." He nodded, like he'd expected that. "That's usually the first thing." "I'm not doing another weird night job with rules." He raised an eyebrow. "Another?" I said nothing. He didn't ask. Instead, he tapped the page. "You want the shift? Read." I wanted the money, so I read. There were 26 instructions. Instruction 1, keep the service door locked after 10 p.m. If it unlocks by itself, do not relock it until you hear a train pass. Instruction 2, the platform lights must stay on. If they all go out, sit under the folding table and count the columns until they return. Instruction 3, do not stand near the platform edge when you hear children laughing. Instruction 4, if a train passes without lights, do not log it as a train. Instruction 5, if the old fare booth phone rings, let it ring until it stops. Do not count the rings. Instruction 6, the north tunnel is active adjacent. The south tunnel is closed. If you hear announcements from the south tunnel, turn off the radio. Instruction 7, if you find wet footprints coming from the wall, mop around them, not through them. Instruction 8, never enter the women's restroom after midnight. There is no women's restroom. Instruction 9, if the pump room door is open and the pumps are quiet, check the sump from the doorway only. Instruction 10, if the sump water reflects daylight, shut off pump A and start pump B. Instruction 11, if someone in an orange vest asks for track 3, tell them the shuttle ended in 1978. Instruction 12, at 12:44 a.m., do not look at the station clock. Instruction 13, if the station clock is missing, end your round and return to the table. Instruction 14, if the old intercom says your name, answer only with your employee number. Instruction 15, if a maintenance cart rolls by with no operator, do not follow it, even if your tools are on it. Instruction 16, if you smell snow, put on gloves before touching metal. Instruction 17, if rats run toward the tracks, step onto the nearest bench and wait. Instruction 18, if a passenger asks when the next train arrives, say, "No trains stop here." Instruction 19, If a passenger asks when the last train left, say, "You missed it." Instruction 20. If Kroll radios and tells you to evacuate, ask him what color the old token booth was. If he says green, stay where you are. Instruction 21. If the wall tiles rearrange, copy the station name into the log exactly as it appears. Instruction 22. If you hear digging below the platform, do not knock back. Instruction 23. Do not open any door marked crew, only unless it was there at the start of your shift. Instruction 24. If blood appears on the yellow safety line, do not step over it. Instruction 25. If a train stops and opens its doors, do not board, even if you see daylight inside. Instruction 26. If the maintenance crew leaves new instructions, read them aloud only after sunrise. I stopped reading. What maintenance crew? Kroll looked down the platform. The ones before you. Where are they? Not scheduled tonight. That's not what I asked. It's what I'm answering. I looked back at the pages. Why is there no official procedure for this? There is. Where? He tapped the loose pages. This is the official procedure for surviving the unofficial problem. The pump room kicked on with a hard metallic shudder. The sound echoed down the platform. Kroll checked his watch. 9:53 p.m. I leave at 10. You're not staying? No. Of course not. He gave me the keys. Make rounds every hour. Platform north end, platform south end, pump room, electrical room door, fare booth, service door, log conditions. Do not enter track bed unless instructed. Do not call police unless you see living trespassers. How do I know they're living? Kroll looked at the station. You'll want them to be. That was not helpful. At 9:58, he walked to the service door. I followed him. Before leaving, he turned back. One thing not written there? Of course. If you hear a train stop above you, but nothing is on the active line, don't look for stairs. What? This place has more exits when it wants witnesses. He stepped through the service door and let it close behind him. The lock clicked. I was alone beneath the abandoned station. For the first 20 minutes, nothing happened. That was always how places like this worked. They let you feel foolish first. The platform lights flickered overhead. Water dripped somewhere in the south tunnel. The pump room shuddered every few minutes. The city above was only a distant vibration in the ceiling, like thunder trapped in concrete. I sat at the folding table, copied my name and time into the logbook, checked the radio, and tried to settle my breathing. 10:05 p.m. Shift started, service door locked, platform lights on, pumps active. I did my first round at 10:30. North end, nothing. The track curved into darkness, but far beyond it I could hear the faint rumble of real trains on active lines. The tunnel air moved in warm gusts. South end. The tunnel there was sealed by a metal barricade and concrete blocks maybe 50 yards beyond the platform. A sign read, "Track out of service, no entry." Someone had written beneath it in black marker, "No exit either." I turned around. Pump room, pump A running, pump B idle, sump water, black and normal. Electrical room, locked, no sound, fare booth, silent. The rotary phone sat behind the cracked glass, dusty and dead-looking. Service door, locked. At 1100, I logged everything. Normal. I almost wrote that word. Then I remembered every old man who had ever looked at me like normal was a word that invited correction. So I wrote, 11 p.m., round complete, no changes observed. At 11:17, the fare booth phone rang. The sound was so sharp and sudden, I nearly knocked over the radio. It was an old ring, mechanical, 2 bells inside the phone hammering against each other. Instruction 5. If the old fare booth phone rings, let it ring until it stops. Do not count the rings. So I did not count. That was harder than it sounds. A ringing phone makes your brain count whether you want it to or not. 1. No. Not 1. Ring. Pause. Ring. Pause. I stared at the logbook and tried to think of anything else. My grocery list, my cousin's couch, the Bulls roster, anything. The phone rang and rang. The sound filled the empty station. Then it stopped. I waited. Nothing. I wrote, 11:17 p.m. Fare booth phone rang. Not answered. The phone rang once more. Just once, like a correction. I did not write that down. At 11:42, children laughed near the track. Instruction 3. Do not stand near the platform edge when you hear children laughing. I was sitting at the folding table, well away from the edge, but I still moved farther back until my shoulders touched the tiled wall. The laughter came from the north end. Several children, maybe 3 or 4, giggling, running. Their footsteps pattered along the platform. I saw nothing. The laughter moved closer. A small red ball rolled out of the darkness near the north stairs. There were no north stairs. The ball bounced once, twice, rolled toward the yellow safety line, stopped at the edge. A child's voice whispered, "Can you get it?" I did not move. The ball rolled backward by itself, then dropped off the platform into the track bed. A girl laughed. A boy said, "Your turn." Then the tunnel went quiet. At midnight, Kroll did not radio. He had not said he would. Still, I found myself wanting the sound of a living voice so badly that I almost called him. I didn't. At 12:18, the radio crackled. Kroll to Lake Morgan. I picked it up. Lake Morgan. Status? His voice sounded real, tired, bored, exactly like Kroll. Platform lights on, pumps active. Fare booth phone rang at 11:17. Children laughing near track at 11:42. No response given. A pause. Then Kroll said, "Good. Round at 12:30. Keep it short." Anything specific? Don't look at the station clock at 12:44. I read the instruction. Reading isn't following. Everyone always said that. The radio hissed. Then Kroll added, "If you see me down there tonight, ask about the token booth." The radio clicked off. At 12:30, I started my second round. North end. The red ball was gone. South end. Something had changed. The barricade was closer. Not much, but closer. Earlier, it had been 50 yards beyond the platform. Now, maybe 40. I pointed my flashlight down the track bed. The concrete blocks still sealed the tunnel. The sign still read, "Track out of service." But behind the barricade, from the darkness beyond the blocks, a station announcement crackled. "Attention passengers, shuttle service to Lake Morgan Lower will begin shortly. Instruction 6, the south tunnel is closed. If you hear announcements from the south tunnel, turn off the radio." My handheld radio was clipped to my belt. It was on. I turned it off. The announcement stopped mid-word. The silence after was worse. I backed away. Pump room. The door was closed. Pump A shook the floor. Good. Electrical room. Locked. But from behind the guarded panel, I heard faint music. Not radio music. Train platform music. An old jingle. Then a woman's voice. "Doors closing." I moved on. Fare booth. The phone was off the hook. It had been on the hook earlier. The receiver dangled inside the glass booth, swinging slightly. I did not touch it. Service door. Locked. At 12:43, I was almost back at the table when I remembered instruction 12. At 12:44 a.m., do not look at the station clock. I had not noticed a station clock. That was the problem. The moment you are told not to look at something, your brain starts looking for it. I lowered my eyes and hurried. The platform lights flickered. A ticking sound began overhead. Tick, tick, tick. I stared at my boots. The ticking grew louder. Tick, tick, tick. At the edge of my vision, high above the old fare booth, something round appeared on the wall. A clock. I was sure it had not been there before. I kept my eyes down. The ticking stopped. A deep mechanical click echoed through the station. Then the clock chimed once. I did not look. A voice over the intercom said, "Time is now 12:44. I sat at the folding table and stared at the logbook until my vision blurred. At 12:45, the clock was gone. Instruction 13. If the station clock is missing, end your round and return to the table. I had already done exactly that. I wrote, 12:30 a.m., round complete. South Tunnel announcement heard. Radio turned off. Fare booth receiver off hook. Avoided clock at 12:44. Clock absent after. The pen scratched loudly in the empty station. Then the old intercom clicked. A burst of static. A man's voice said, "Evan Rourke, report to platform level." I froze. That was not my name. For a second, I felt a strange relief. Wrong person. Then the intercom clicked again. This time, it used my name. My full name. Marcus Vale, report to platform level. Instruction 14. If the old intercom says your name, answer only with your employee number. I looked at my badge. Northline Temporary Access ID, employee number, NMS-614. My voice shook. NMS-614. The intercom hissed. Then the voice said, "Accepted." Something unlocked under the platform. A heavy bolt sliding back. Far below me, metal groaned. I looked at the instruction pages. There was no instruction for that. At 1:05, the rats came. I heard them in the walls first, scratching, squeaking, a soft wave of movement beneath the platform edge. Then they poured out from under the benches, from cracks in the tile, from gaps near the track bed. Dozens of rats, maybe hundreds, all running toward the tracks. Instruction 17. If rats run toward the tracks, step onto the nearest bench and wait. I climbed onto the nearest wooden bench. The rats flowed around the legs like water. None touched me. They ran straight to the platform edge, dropped into the track bed, and disappeared under the rails. Then the track bed moved, not the tracks, the darkness between them. Something below shifted, as if the rats had run into a throat. The platform vibrated. From under the concrete came digging. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Instruction 22. If you hear digging below the platform, do not knock back. I gripped the bench. The digging continued. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Then 3 knocks rose from beneath my feet. Tap, tap, tap. I did not knock back. A child's voice below whispered, "We know you're up there." The bench trembled. I waited until the rats stopped running and the digging faded before stepping down. At 1:33, wet footprints appeared from the wall. I noticed them near the old station sign. Lake Morgan's missing tiles had left gaps in the wall. From one of those gaps, water seeped down and gathered at the baseboard. Footprints led away from it. Bare feet. Adult. Wet. They crossed the platform toward the track edge. Instruction 7. If you find wet footprints coming from the wall, mop around them, not through them. There was a mop bucket near the pump room. Of course there was. I filled it from the utility sink and rolled it over. The footprints glistened under my flashlight. I mopped around each one carefully, leaving the prints untouched. As I worked, the wall whispered. Not through the intercom, through the tile. Thank you. I kept mopping. The footprints continued appearing one step ahead of me, out of the wall, across the platform, to the yellow safety line. Then they stopped. Blood appeared on the yellow line, a thin red smear, then another, then more, as if someone unseen had stepped across it with cut feet. Instruction 24. If blood appears on the yellow safety line, do not step over it. I backed away from the edge. The wet footprints turned around. One by one, they appeared heading back toward the wall. This time, I did not follow. At 2 o'clock, a train passed without lights. It came from the north tunnel. I heard it before I saw anything. Not the normal roar of an active train somewhere above or beyond. This was close, steel on steel, wind pressure. A train entering the abandoned station track. The platform lights flickered. The air pushed against my chest. A black train shot through Lake Morgan without headlights, interior lights, marker lights, or sound from any announcement system. Just dark windows, dark cars, dark speed. Instruction 4. If a train passes without lights, do not log it as a train. I waited until it was gone. Then I wrote 2 a.m., unlit movement passed north to south. Not logged as train. The logbook page curled at the edges. The intercom clicked. Correction, it said. I did not answer. At 2:22, a man in an orange vest walked out of the south tunnel. Impossible. The south tunnel was sealed. The barricade was still there. The concrete blocks were still there. But he stepped out from in front of them like he had been hiding in shadow. He wore a hard hat, an orange reflective vest, work boots, and a tool belt. His face was covered in gray dust. His eyes looked normal enough until he blinked sideways. He walked toward me. I stayed by the folding table. Hey, he called. Track 3 this way. Instruction 11. If someone in an orange vest asks for track 3, tell them the shuttle ended in 1978. The shuttle ended in 1978. He stopped. His expression sagged. Not angry. Lost. No, he said. They told us track 3. The shuttle ended in 1978. He looked down at his hands. They were bleeding through his gloves. Behind him, more orange vests appeared near the south tunnel. 3, 4, 7, all dusty. All confused. The first man whispered, "Then why are we still on shift?" I repeated the only answer I had. The shuttle ended in 1978. One by one, the workers turned around and walked back toward the sealed south tunnel. They passed through the barricade without moving it. At 2:31, Kroll came through the service door. I was so relieved to see a human being that I almost forgot the instruction. Almost. He stepped onto the platform wearing the same dark coat, same hard hat, same bored expression. "Rough night?" he asked. I stayed behind the folding table. What color was the old token booth? Instruction 20. If Kroll radios and tells you to evacuate, ask him what color the old token booth was. If he says green, stay where you are. He had not radioed. He had not told me to evacuate, but he was there when he should not have been. Kroll smiled. Green. I sat down. He stopped smiling. Good, he said. The word came from the intercom, not his mouth. The Kroll by the door stood very still. Then his body folded inward like paper burning. In less than a second, he collapsed into a pile of old transit schedules on the platform floor. I did not touch them. At 2:45, The women's restroom appeared. There had been no restroom doors on the platform. I knew that. I had walked the length of the station twice. But now, between the old fare booth and the sealed stairs, a tiled corridor led to a door with a rusted sign. Women. The light inside flickered. Water ran somewhere beyond it. Instruction 8. Never enter the women's restroom after midnight. There is no women's restroom. A woman inside sobbed. Please, no. Please, I dropped my baby. No. Water splashed. The woman screamed. I walked back to the folding table and put both hands over my ears. The restroom door opened. I did not look. Bare, wet footsteps crossed the platform, stopped behind me. The woman whispered, "You could at least help me look." I stared at the logbook. A drop of water hit the page, then another. The footsteps moved away. The restroom door closed. When I finally looked up, the corridor was gone. At 3 o'clock, the pump room went silent. The absence of sound woke something primal in me. I had gotten used to Pump A's violent shudder every few minutes. Without it, the station felt dead. Instruction 9. If the pump room door is open and the pumps are quiet, check the sump from the doorway only. The pump room door stood open. I walked to it slowly. From the doorway, I shone my flashlight inside. Pump A silent. Pump B silent. The sump pit was full. The water was not black. It reflected daylight. Bright morning sun. Blue sky. A sidewalk. People walking past in summer clothes. A bus stop. A normal Chicago street. Instruction 10. If the sump water reflects daylight, shut off Pump A and start Pump B. I did not enter the room. The control panel was just inside the doorway. I leaned in carefully, keeping my feet outside, shut off Pump A and hit the start button for Pump B. Pump B groaned. Nothing. I hit it again. The sump water rippled. In the daylight reflection, someone stopped walking. A woman on the reflected sidewalk turned and looked down, directly at me. Her face changed. It became mine. Pump B started with a violent roar. The reflection shattered back to black water. I stumbled backward. The pump room door slammed shut. At 3:13, the platform lights went out. All of them. Instruction 2. The platform lights must stay on. If they all go out, sit under the folding table and count the columns until they return. I dropped under the table. Darkness swallowed the station. Not dimness, not emergency light. Total black. I could hear the pump running, my own breathing, then footsteps, many of them. Passengers entering the platform from stairs that did not exist. The smell of wet wool, cigarettes, old perfume, hot metal, rain. A train announcement crackled overhead. Lake Morgan, transfer available to track 3 shuttle. I began counting columns in my head. 1, 2, 3, but I couldn't see them. Count anyway. 4, 5. Children laughed near the platform edge. 6. The fare booth phone rang. Do not count rings. 7. The South Tunnel announcement played. Turn off radio. Radio already off. 8. Something crouched beside the table. I felt it, cold air against my face. 9. A voice whispered, "You missed your stop." 10. Another voice said, "No trains stop here." That was my line. 11. Something tapped the tabletop above me. Tap, tap, tap. 12. The lights came back on. I was still under the table. The platform was empty. The folding table was covered in wet handprints. At 3:27, the wall tiles rearranged. I heard them before I saw them. Tiny ceramic clicks, like teeth chattering in the wall. The old station name on the tile band shifted. Lake Morgan. Missing letters slid into place, then out, Tiles moved along the wall, rearranging the name. Instruction 21. If the wall tiles rearrange, copy the station name into the log exactly as it appears. I grabbed the logbook. The tiles stopped. The station name now read, Lack Morning. I copied it exactly. 3:27 a.m. Wall tiles rearranged. Lack Morning. The platform lights flickered. The tiles clicked again. Another rearrangement. Moaning Lark. I copied it. Then Longmaker. Then Mark Lone G. Then Kroll. No. Wrong. That last one wasn't a station name. I stopped writing. The tiles clicked angrily. The intercom said, Copy exactly. I looked at the instruction. Copy the station name. That was not the station name. That was a message. I closed the logbook. The tiles rearranged violently, clacking across the wall. When they stopped, they spelled Lake Morgan Normal. Almost. One extra tile remained below the name. A small white square. On it, in red letters, Crew Only, Instruction 23. Do not open any door marked Crew Only unless it was there at the start of your shift. There was no door, just the tile. Then the wall cracked open beneath it. A narrow door appeared in the tile, outlined by red grout. The handle turned by itself. I stepped back. The door opened inward. Behind it was a stairwell going down. Concrete steps, yellow light, voices, a maintenance crew talking below, men laughing, a radio playing. Someone said, He's up there. Another voice said, Leave him instructions. The loose pages on the folding table fluttered. A new sheet slid from the open doorway and skidded across the platform to my feet. It was written in black marker, fresh, block letters. I did not read it aloud. Instruction 26. If the maintenance crew leaves new instructions, read them aloud only after sunrise. I picked up the page and turned it over. I let myself read silently. There were only 3 lines. If the lower crew door opens before 4 a.m., do not trust the first set of instructions. Kroll is not the supervisor. The station is moving up. Behind the open door, someone below laughed. Then a train horn sounded from under the platform, not in the tunnels, under the platform. The floor shook. The yellow safety line began bleeding again. This time, the blood flowed uphill, toward me, and from the stairwell behind the new crew-only door, Kroll's voice called, Marcus, come down here before it reaches street level. Kroll is not the supervisor, the page said. The words sat in my head, louder than the train horn under the platform. The yellow safety line was bleeding uphill toward me. The new crew-only door stood open in the tiled wall, and from the stairwell behind it, Kroll's voice called my name again. Marcus, come down here before it reaches street level. I did not move. The blood crept across the platform in a thin red sheet, moving against the slight slope of the concrete, flowing toward the folding table, toward my boots, toward the service corridor door. Instruction 24. If blood appears on the yellow safety line, do not step over it. The blood had started on the yellow line. Now it was leaving the line. The instruction did not say what to do if the blood came to you. That was how this place worked. Every rule had an edge. Something down here knew exactly where those edges were. Kroll's voice echoed from below the open door. Marcus, listen to me. The station is rising. If it reaches street level, people above start hearing it. Come down. I looked at the page in my hand. If the lower crew door opens before 4 a.m., do not trust the first set of instructions. Kroll is not the supervisor. The station is moving up. I did not read it aloud. Instruction 26 said if the maintenance crew left new instructions, read them aloud only after sunrise. It did not say I couldn't read them silently, but I had no idea whether that was a loophole or a trap. The blood reached the nearest leg of the folding table. It climbed, not splashed, climbed. A red line crawled up the metal leg, thin as thread. Kroll's voice softened. "You're thinking too much. That's how it gets time." I stayed where I was. "What color was the old token booth?" I shouted. Silence. The blood stopped moving. From below, the crew-only stairwell, Kroll answered. "Green." I did not move. The platform lights flickered once, then again. The voice below said, "That instruction is wrong." I looked at the old pages. Instruction 20 said if Kroll radios and tells me to evacuate, ask what color the old token booth was. If he said green, stay where I was. This was not the radio. He was not telling me to evacuate exactly, but he had said green. And every version of Kroll I had seen tonight that said green had been wrong. The voice below sighed. "You're going to make me come up." The crew-only stairwell lights dimmed. Something began climbing. Slow footsteps, boots on concrete, one step, then another. I backed away from the open door without crossing the blood. The blood had formed a crescent around the folding table, cutting me off from the track edge but leaving the service door side clear. I moved toward the wall, keeping my boots on clean concrete. The old station intercom clicked. Static hissed. Then a woman's voice said, "Maintenance staff are reminded not to block emergency ascent." Emergency ascent, not exit, ascent. The floor vibrated again. The train horn sounded from beneath the platform, closer this time. I felt it in my shins. The bootsteps in the stairwell stopped just below the open door. Kroll's face appeared in the doorway. Only his face. No shoulders. No hard hat. Just his face, hovering in the yellow light at the top of the stairs, like the rest of him remained folded below. He smiled. Green was correct before they changed it. I held the flashlight like a weapon. "What color is it now?" The face frowned. "It doesn't matter." "Yes, it does." His smile returned. "Brass." The word came too late. It sounded guessed. The blood on the floor moved again. The Kroll face slid upward another inch, revealing a neck too long to belong to him. I stepped back. The loose instruction page in my hand warmed. Letters appeared beneath the first 3 lines. Not handwritten, not marker, raised in damp black ink. "Ask who pays him." I swallowed. "Who pays you?" Kroll's face went still. For 1 second, it looked almost human. Then it said, "Everyone who wants the trains to keep running." The station lights went out. Instruction 2. If the platform lights all go out, sit under the folding table and count the columns until they return. I could not reach the folding table. Blood surrounded it. In the darkness, the face in the crew-only doorway glowed faintly green. It was not Kroll anymore. The mouth opened wider. "Count the columns," it whispered. I did not go to the table. Instead, I dropped flat against the wall and closed my eyes. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe I should have crawled through blood to follow the rule exactly. But the instruction had been written before the new door opened, before the first set became questionable, before the station started moving up. In the dark, every column on the platform began speaking, 1 voice per column, deep, concrete voices. 1, 2, 3, 4. They counted themselves. I kept my eyes closed. The voices moved out of order. 7, 2, 9, 14:3. The station wanted me to join. I stayed silent. Something dragged itself out of the crew-only doorway and onto the platform, wet, heavy. The blood on the floor moved toward it like iron filings to a magnet. A voice near my ear whispered, "You're supposed to count." I pressed my lips shut. The columns kept counting wrong. 6, 6, 6. The platform lights came back on. I opened my eyes. The crew-only door was gone. The blood was gone. The loose instruction page lay on the floor where the door had been. The tile wall was intact. Lake Morgan stared back at me in chipped ceramic letters. The folding table stood where it had been. Its legs were clean, but my boots were wet with blood to the ankle. I logged what I could. 3:31 a.m. New crew-only door appeared. New instructions received. Kroll voice requested descent. Token booth answer, green, then brass. Platform lights out, did not count aloud. Door absent after lights returned. The pen trembled in my hand. I stopped before writing blood because I didn't know whether naming it would bring it back. The intercom clicked. Report incomplete, it said. I did not answer. At 3:44, the radio turned itself back on. I had shut it off after the South Tunnel announcement. Now it sat on the table, screen glowing, speaker hissing. Kroll's voice came through. Real Kroll or another one? Lake Morgan, check in. I stared at it. Lake Morgan, respond. I picked it up but did not press transmit. Kroll continued. Marcus, if you can hear me, do not answer yet. Tap the microphone twice. That was new. I tapped twice. The radio hissed. Good, Kroll said. You saw the lower crew door. I tapped once. That page told you not to trust the first instructions. I tapped once. Good, don't trust that page either. That felt like the first honest thing I had heard in an hour. Kroll continued. The first instructions are survival rules, not truth. The lower crew pages are correction attempts, not truth either. Truth is what you can verify without answering. I looked toward the tile wall where the door had been. What color was the token booth? I asked. Kroll answered without hesitation. Blue. My eyes moved to the old fare booth. Behind the cracked glass, under decades of grime and peeling paint, the original metal frame was dull blue. Not green, not brass. Blue. I let myself breathe. The radio crackled. Kroll said, If anything says green, it wants you stationary. If anything says brass, it's guessing from the old handrails. If anything says blue, it might be me. Might. Might? Don't get sentimental. What is this place? Lake Morgan Lower. That's not an answer. It is the only safe one. Who's the supervisor? The radio went silent. Then Kroll said, You don't need to know that tonight. The new page says you're not. I'm not. I gripped the radio tighter. Then who is? The station clock appeared above the fare booth. It was not 12:44 now. The hands spun backward. Kroll said sharply, Stop asking hierarchy questions underground. The clock vanished. You need to listen, he said. The station is moving up. That part is true. It does that when someone copies the wrong map, wrong name, or wrong instructions into the log. I looked at the logbook. Lack morning, moaning lark, longmaker. I had stopped before copying Kroll? No, wrong. What did I copy that was wrong? Maybe nothing yet, maybe enough. That's not helpful. No, he said. It's accurate. A rumble moved under the platform. Not a train now, a whole level shifting. Kroll continued. At 4 o'clock, there will be a service train. It may look lit. It may look empty. It may look like daylight inside. Do not board. I read instruction 25. You will see someone in it who makes the instruction difficult. Who? The radio clicked. A different voice answered. My cousin, Danny, the one whose couch I had been sleeping on. Marcus? Why are you down there? My hand tightened. Kroll's voice snapped over his. Turn volume down. I lowered the volume. Danny's voice became faint. Your phone's been off. I came looking. Impossible. Danny didn't know where this job site was. Kroll said, it starts with people who could plausibly worry about you. I whispered, he doesn't know I'm here. Then stop making the case for it, the radio hissed. Danny's faint voice said, they told me to take the stairs. Kroll said, no more talking. At 4, stand behind the farthest column from the platform edge. Keep one hand on the column until the train leaves. Why? So, the station remembers you belong to the platform, not the train. The radio cut out. I checked the time. 3:52. 8 minutes. I moved to the farthest column from the platform edge, near the wall behind the folding table. The column was green-painted steel, cold and slightly damp. I put my left hand on it. The station began to change. Not dramatically. No walls melting. No screaming. Worse. It became cleaner. The floor tiles brightened. The platform lights steadied. The old ads repaired themselves behind the cracked frames. The missing station tiles slid back into place. Lake Morgan. The air warmed. The smell of rot and wet concrete faded into ozone, perfume, newspaper ink, hot brakes, and summer pavement. People appeared, not suddenly. They arrived the way crowds do, one by one until the platform is full, and you wonder when you stopped being alone. A man in a suit reading a paper. A woman holding grocery bags. 2 boys in Cubs caps. A nurse in white shoes. A construction worker with a lunch pail, passengers, living looking. They stood on the platform and ignored me. I kept my hand on the column. The old fare booth was staffed now. A woman behind the glass took tokens. The booth was blue. Definitely blue. The intercom chimed. Lake Morgan, service to downtown and West Loop arriving shortly. The passengers moved toward the yellow line. Blood had been there earlier, now it was clean. A man in a brown coat glanced at me. You getting on? No trains stop here, I said automatically. Instruction 18. If a passenger asks when the next train arrives, say, no trains stop here. He frowned. That's not what I asked. I kept my hand on the column. No trains stop here. He backed away, irritated. Then the tunnel filled with light. A train arrived from the north, not black, not unlit. This one was beautiful, silver cars, bright windows, warm interior lights, people seated inside, advertisements above the doors, a map showing stops that did not exist anymore. The train slowed, stopped. Doors opened. Instruction 25. If a train stops and opens its doors, do not board, even if you see daylight inside. There was daylight inside, actual daylight. Through the open doors, I saw a summer morning platform somewhere above ground. Sun on tile, people drinking coffee, a woman laughing, blue sky beyond the stairs. My chest ached. Then I saw Danny. He stood inside the train car, one hand gripping a pole, wearing the hoodie he had been wearing when I left his apartment. He looked worried and angry. Marcus, he said, get in. I held the column. No. His face twisted. What the hell are you doing? I've been calling you. No trains stop here. This one did. No trains stop here. Passengers pushed around him. Doors closing. the intercom announced. Danny stepped into the doorway, blocking it. "Marcus, come on, you're scaring me." My hand slid on the damp column. I tightened my grip. Kroll had warned me. Someone plausible, someone difficult. Danny looked past me toward the station. "Who are all these people?" The passengers turned to him at once, every face on the platform, every face in the train, all looking. Danny's expression changed. For a second, he looked less like bait and more like someone who had just realized he was bait. "Marcus?" he whispered. My stomach dropped. What if it had reached him? What if Danny had answered a call, followed stairs, found an entrance, gotten pulled halfway into this like everything else? The doors tried to close on him. He held them open. "Help me," he said, not dramatic, not monstrous. Human, terrified. I almost let go of the column. Then a child near the front of the car laughed. The same laugh from earlier. A small red ball rolled between Danny's feet. He looked down. His face went blank. The thing wearing Danny smiled. Too late. The doors closed. The train pulled away. Everyone on the platform vanished with it. The station returned to decay. Flickering work lights, stained tiles, empty platform. My hand remained on the column, cramped and aching. At 4:07, my actual phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost screamed. I had no signal down here earlier. Now one text showed on the screen. "Danny, you alive? Couch is yours if you need it. Sent 3:59 a.m. Above it, no missed calls, no search party, no stairs, just a text." I sat down against the column and nearly cried. At 4:22, the pump room overflowed. I heard water before I saw it, a steady spill, not the usual trickle into the sump. This was rushing. I ran to the pump room doorway. Pump B was running. Pump A was off, like I had left it. The sump pit was full to the rim. Water poured from the pipe in the wall, but it was not black. Not daylight reflective either. It was full of tiny floating papers. Tickets. Old paper transit tickets. They circled in the sump like leaves. Instruction 9. If the pump room door is open and the pumps are quiet, check the sump from the doorway only. The pumps were not quiet, so I could enter. Maybe. I didn't. I stayed at the doorway and looked at the control panel. Pump B was running but not lowering the water. Pump A was off. Instruction 10 said if sump reflected daylight, shut off A and start B. That condition had passed. Now I needed drainage. I reached in and switched pump A back on. Both pumps roared. The water did not lower. The ticket spun faster. One floated near the edge. The name printed on it read, Marcus Vale, one way. Lake Morgan lowered a street-level number. I stepped back. Another ticket surfaced. Danny Vale. Another. Mr. Kroll. Another. A name I did not know. Edith Sloan. Then more, hundreds, some faded, some fresh. The pump room intercom clicked. A woman's voice said, "Tickets must be collected before ascent." Ascent again. The water rose over the lip of the sump and spilled onto the floor. I backed into the platform. Wet footprints appeared in the spreading water. Not coming from the wall this time, coming from the pump room. Instruction 7 said, if footprints came from the wall, mop around them. These did not. I left them alone. The footprints crossed the platform toward the fare booth. Inside the booth, the rotary phone receiver lifted by itself and pressed against the glass from the inside. Then it rang. I did not count. The wet footprints stopped at the booth door. A woman appeared behind the glass, not the token clerk from the false station. This woman wore a Northline maintenance jacket, dark hair tied back, face pale, A name patch on her chest, E. Sloan, Edith Sloan. The name on the ticket. She picked up the ringing phone. I wanted to shout at her not to, but she was behind glass, behind time, behind whatever this place had already done. She listened, then turned toward me. Through the glass, she mouthed, "Don't trust Kroll." The phone cord wrapped around her wrist. She struggled. The booth filled with water from below. In seconds, it was up to her waist, then her chest, then her neck. She slammed one hand against the glass. In the other, she held a folded paper. Instructions. The water covered her mouth. Her eyes stayed open. The booth went dark. The water was gone. The rotary phone sat on the hook. The folded paper lay outside the booth door, dry. I picked it up. Instruction 26. Read new instructions aloud only after sunrise. I read silently. Edith Sloan, night maintenance, lead final note. If you are reading this, the lower station has already shown you one false supervisor. Kroll is real, but Kroll is not in charge. No one is in charge. The station responds to procedure because procedure is the last language it was given before closure. Do not ask who built the lower levels. Do not ask where track 3 goes. Do not let the station reach street level with passengers aboard. If the station begins ascent, remove its name. Below that was a diagram. The wall tiles, Lake Morgan, several letters circled. Remove its name. The tile rearrangement instruction had been important, but not the way I thought. I folded the note and put it into my pocket. At 4:41, Kroll called again. This time from the service door, not radio, not intercom. The real service door opened, and he stepped onto the platform, breathing hard, coat wet from rain that did not exist upstairs. He held up both hands. "Blue," he said. I did not move. "What pays you?" I asked. He frowned. What? What pays you?" He looked exhausted enough to collapse. "Guilt," he said. That answer felt true. He walked closer slowly. "I see you met Edith." My hand went to the note in my pocket. "You knew her?" "Yes. She says not to trust you. You shouldn't. But you're real? Unfortunately." The station groaned under us. Kroll looked toward the south tunnel. "We have less time than I thought." "What does remove its name mean?" His face changed. "How much did she show you?" "Enough. No one has removed a name tile in 40 years. "What happens if I do?" "The station forgets where to arrive." "And if I don't?" He looked up. Above us, somewhere through concrete and city and street, a train rumbled on an active line. The ceiling answered, not with vibration, with hunger. Kroll said, "Then Lake Morgan opens upstairs. People will see an abandoned station?" "No," he said. "People will see their stop." The platform lights brightened. The station intercom chimed. "Attention passengers. Lake Morgan service resuming shortly." Kroll cursed. From the north tunnel came the sound of a train approaching. This one was not at track level. It was below, under us, rising. The floor tiles lifted slightly, then settled. The station was moving up. Kroll grabbed the toolbox. "We need the tile scraper." "What about the instructions?" "Which ones?" "All of them." He gave me a grim look. "Follow the ones that keep you from answering. Break the ones that keep the station intact." That was the best explanation I had gotten all night. We ran to the wall tile band. Lake Morgan. Ceramic letters set into old white tile. Kroll handed me a heavy pry tool. "Start with the L." "Why?" "A station needs a first letter." I wedged the tool under the L. The tile was cold. Instruction 16. If you smell snow, put on gloves before touching metal. I smelled snow, sharp, clean, wrong underground. The pry tool was metal. I pulled gloves from Kroll's bag and put them on. Then I pried. The L did not move. The approaching underground train grew louder. Kroll worked on the final N. "Don't look at the clock," he said. "It's not 12:44. It doesn't care." A clock ticked behind me. I kept my eyes on the tile. The L cracked. Something screamed inside the wall. Not loud, but close, like a mouth opening behind the ceramic. I pried harder. The tile came loose. The moment it separated from the wall, the station sign read, "Ake Morgan." The platform shifted downward half an inch. Kroll exhaled. "Good." The intercom clicked. "Station name error. Maintenance required." The north tunnel filled with light. A train came into view. Slow, lit, open doors before it even stopped. Inside, I saw daylight again. Not summer this time. Morning rush hour. People with coffees, phones, backpacks. A normal Chicago platform above. Instruction 25, do not board. Kroll yelled, "Second letter." I moved to the A. Passengers appeared on the platform behind us. Not ghosts this time, not old ones, modern people. A woman in scrubs, a man with earbuds, a teenager with a skateboard. They looked confused, blinking at the abandoned station like they had stepped off the wrong train. One of them said, "Is this Clark/Lake?" Instruction 18 or 19. Passenger asks when train arrives/left. Not this. Kroll shouted, "Don't answer location questions." The woman in scrubs looked at me. "Where are we?" I pried at the A. No answer. She stepped closer. "Excuse me?" The A cracked. The train under the platform roared louder. I ripped the tile free. "Key Morgan." The modern passengers flickered. Not vanished. Flickered. Like bad reception. The woman in scrubs looked down at her own hands and screamed. Kroll removed the N. Kimorga. The station dropped another inch. The train doors began closing. One passenger, the teenager, ran toward them. Kroll tackled him. The boy hit the platform and broke into a cloud of ticket stubs. Not real, not alive, just bait. I moved to the K. The wall behind the missing letters bled black water. From inside it, children laughed. "Can you get our ball?" "No," I pried. The K split in half. Morga. The station name no longer looked like a name. The platform lights flickered violently. The train at the platform vanished. The underground train kept rising. Kroll was sweating. "Middle letters," he said. "How many do we need?" "All." That was when the fare booth phone rang. Both of us froze. Instruction 5. Let it ring until it stops. Do not count. We kept working. Ring, pause, ring, pause. The sound drilled into my skull. I pried the E. Kroll pried the A from Morgan's end. The phone kept ringing. The old booth door opened. The receiver stretched out on its cord, impossibly long, across the platform toward us. It dragged along the floor like a black snake. Ring. Pause. Ring. Pause. Do not count. Do not count. Do not count. The receiver stopped at my boot. The earpiece tilted upward. Danny's voice came through it. "Marcus, I'm outside the alley door." The E-tile came loose in my hand. "Morgue." Kroll looked at me. "Don't," Danny said. "There's water coming up the stairs." The receiver cord wrapped around my ankle. I kicked it off. "Marcus, what do I do?" I smashed the receiver with the pry tool. The ringing stopped. The fare booth glass cracked. From inside, Edith Sloan's voice whispered, "Thank you." Kroll stared at the smashed receiver. She never managed that. Good for me. Don't get proud. We kept removing letters. MOR. Each one fought harder than the last. Behind every tile was something different. Behind M, a rush of cold tunnel wind. Behind O, a glimpse of a moving train packed with faceless passengers. Behind R, a child's hand holding a red ball. The platform dropped with each missing piece. The underground train grew farther away. The station announcement warped. Lake Morgan service reçu, static. Luck Memargien service, static. LM service. Kroll removed the G. Only one tile remained. A, not the first A. Another small tile from a repaired section, hidden under grime near the end of the band. The station name, broken and unreadable, still had one vowel. The platform shuddered. The south tunnel barricade disappeared. Beyond it, track 3 opened. A clean platform waited in bright light, full of people, hundreds, maybe thousands, all looking at us. The intercom spoke in a voice I had not heard before. A calm woman, older, authoritative. Maintenance personnel will restore station identification immediately. Kroll went pale. I whispered, "Supervisor?" He nodded once. The voice continued. Lake Morgan cannot operate without name recognition. The last tile warmed under my gloved fingers. I wedged the tool beneath it. The supervisor voice said, "Marcus Vale, employee NMS-614, your work order is incomplete. Instruction 14. If the intercom says your name, answer only with your employee number." NMS-614, I said. "Accepted," the voice replied. A bolt unlocked below the platform. Kroll screamed, "No!" Too late. The platform split open between us and the wall. A maintenance hatch rose from the floor. On it, painted in old black letters, "Crew only." It had not been there at the start of my shift. Instruction 23. Do not open any door marked "Crew only" unless it was there at the start of your shift. The hatch opened by itself. Stairs descended. Below, a full maintenance crew waited. Men and women in orange vests, gray uniforms, hard hats, old CTA jackets, Northline coats, all of them holding instruction pages. All of them looking up. Edith stood among them. So did another Kroll. And another. The supervisor's voice said, "Return the station name, and all crews may ascend." Kroll grabbed my arm. "Pull the last tile." A hand reached from the hatch and caught my boot. Cold fingers. Hard grip. "Crew comes up together," someone below said. The last tile began sliding back into place under my hand. The station wanted its name. Kroll raised the pry tool, then stopped. A child's voice came from the hatch. "Mr. Kroll?" His face broke. No, not him too. A little girl stood at the bottom of the stairs, wearing a yellow raincoat and holding a transit token. Kroll whispered, "Anna." The last tile locked halfway back into the wall. I grabbed Kroll's wrist. "Who is she?" He could not answer. The girl said, "You said you'd come back up." Kroll's hand shook. The supervisor voice said, "Maintenance is family, Mr. Kroll." That snapped something in him. He looked at the girl, then at me. "Not her," he whispered. "Never her." He swung the pry tool into the last tile. It shattered. The station screamed. Not a person, not metal. The whole abandoned station screamed as if its name had been cut out of its mouth. The hatch slammed shut. The south tunnel sealed. Track 3 vanished. The wall tile band became blank white ceramic. No Lake Morgan, no rearranged name, no station identity, just empty tile. The platform dropped hard. I fell. Kroll fell beside me. The lights went out. For 1 second, I thought instruction 2 again. Table, columns, count. But there was no time. The underground train below us roared past, not rising now, but falling away. Farther, farther. until the sound became a distant metallic whisper. Then the platform lights came back on, dim, flickering, normal. The station was empty. The folding table remained. The pump room hummed. The fare booth phone was smashed on the floor outside the booth. The wall where the name had been was blank. Kroll lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. He laughed once. It sounded like choking. I sat up. What did we do? He looked at the blank wall, made it miss its stop. At 5:12, the service door unlocked by itself. Instruction 1 said, if it unlocked by itself after 10 p.m., do not relock it until I heard a train pass. From somewhere above us, a real train passed on the active line. Thunder in the ceiling, wheels screaming around a curve. The service door slowly swung open. Beyond it was the corridor back to the stairs. Kroll sat up. Don't relock it. I know. He looked surprised, then almost amused. Maybe you do. I gathered the instruction pages, old ones, new ones, Edith's note, the lower crew page. Kroll stood with effort, one hand pressed against his ribs. What now? We leave. What about the shift? He looked at me like I had just said the funniest thing in the world. Then he shook his head. Shift ended when the station lost its name. We walked toward the service door. Halfway there, the intercom clicked. The supervisor's voice returned, weak, distorted. Maintenance staff must complete final log. Kroll stopped. No. The logbook was still on the folding table. I looked at it. Leaving a blank final entry felt wrong, dangerously wrong. Kroll saw my face. That's how they keep you. Blank spaces get filled. This isn't your first bad place, is it? I didn't answer. The intercom said, final log required. Kroll whispered, don't. I walked back to the table, anyway. Not because I wanted to obey, because I wanted to choose the wording. The logbook lay open. The final entry line waited. I wrote, 5:14 a.m. Station name removed. No passenger service. No trains stop here. Shift ended. The pen moved in my hand. Not by me. It tried to add, maintenance remains below. I gripped it with both hands and forced a period after ended. The pen snapped. Ink spilled across the page. The intercom went silent. Kroll and I left through the service door. We did not run. Running felt like panic. The corridor beyond the platform seemed longer than before, but it led to the stairwell. The old map behind cloudy plastic was still on the wall. The shaded rectangle labeled Lake Morgan Lower Station had changed. Now it was blank, no label, no name, just an empty shape under the city. Kroll stopped and touched the glass. She did it, he said. Edith? He nodded. Started it. We finished. What happened to her? He looked toward the sealed station door behind us. She removed half the name in 1983. Not enough. Station kept part of her for trying. And Anna? His face closed. My daughter. I waited. He did not continue. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe the station still listened for certain stories. We climbed the stairs in silence. The city grew louder above us. Real trains, real traffic, real wind. The steel alley door opened onto a gray Chicago morning. Cold air hit my face. I had never been so relieved to smell dumpsters. Kroll stepped out behind me and shut the service door. He did not lock it. Shouldn't we? No, he said. Instruction 1? He nodded. Wait for a train. Above us, the elevated tracks roared as a train passed, sparks flashing faintly in the morning light. Only then did Kroll scan his badge and lock the door. The alley seemed normal. Wet pavement, trash bins, a delivery truck idling nearby. People walking past the alley mouth without any idea what sat under their feet. Kroll took the instruction pages from me. I did not let go. He looked at my hand. I should keep those. No. You don't know what to do with them. Neither do you. He stared at me. Then he smiled, very faintly. Fair. He let me keep Edith's note and the lower crew page. He kept the old instructions, at least most of them. One page had stuck to my vest. I found it later, but in that alley, before we separated, Kroll said one last thing. If anyone asks, you quit before your first round. Will anyone ask? No one official. And unofficial? He looked at the sealed service door. Only if the station remembers your name. I should have walked away. Instead, I asked the question I had been holding since the hatch opened. Who was the supervisor? Kroll's face went still. Then he said, Chicago. I thought he meant the city government. Then I saw his expression. No, he meant the city. The thing above, the weight, the tunnels, the streets, the stations closed, opened, renamed, buried, flooded, rebuilt. A place big enough to forget people and call that infrastructure. Kroll walked away before I could ask anything else. I stood in the alley until my phone buzzed. Danny again. You good? I typed back. Yeah, long night. Then, after a pause, thanks for checking, he replied. NP, don't take weird basement jobs anymore, idiot. I laughed. For about 3 seconds, I felt normal. Then a train passed overhead. Through the noise, very faintly, I heard an announcement from below the street. Next stop. Static, then silence. I looked at the steel door. It stayed shut. No knocking, no phone ringing, no wet footprints. I went home. Or back to Danny's couch, which was close enough. I went back to Danny's apartment and slept for 16 hours. Not good sleep. Not peaceful sleep. The kind of sleep where your body shuts itself down because fear has burned through everything else. I dreamed of train doors opening into daylight. I dreamed of wet footprints stopping at my bed. I dreamed of a station with no name waiting beneath the city, patient and embarrassed, like I had taken something from it that it intended to get back. When I woke up, Danny was standing over the couch holding a mug of coffee and looking at me like he was trying to decide whether to call a doctor. You look dead, he said. Feel worse. You came in at like 7 in the morning, covered in rust, smelled like sewage, and passed out with your boots on. Sorry. Did you quit? Yes. Good. He handed me the coffee. I sat up too fast and almost threw up. My whole body hurt. My hands were raw from prying tiles. My boots were still stained dark around the soles. My Northline vest lay crumpled on the floor where Danny must have peeled it off me before covering me with a blanket. Something white was stuck to the inside of the vest. A folded page. I knew before I touched it. I set the coffee down. Danny noticed. What? Nothing. That's not a nothing face. I picked up the page carefully. It was damp, though the vest was dry. At the top, in handwriting I did not recognize, were the words, Final Lower Crew Addendum. Below that, if the station loses its name, it will borrow one from whoever wrote the final log. If your name appears on tile, do not answer to it. If passengers ask whether this is your stop, say, no trains stop here. If the city map shows your name as a station, remove yourself before morning service. I read the lines 3 times. Then I checked my phone. 8:41 p.m. I had slept through the entire day. Danny leaned over my shoulder. What the hell is that? I folded the page. Work stuff. That is not work stuff. No. He sat on the coffee table in front of me. Marcus. I looked at him. Danny was my cousin, but more than that, he was the closest thing I had to a brother. He had let me crash on his couch without asking for rent. He had texted me at 4 a.m. because he knew I was bad at admitting when things were wrong. He deserved the truth. But the truth had rules attached. And I had learned something under Lake Morgan. The more you explain certain places, the more doors you give them. So I said, I took a bad job. I quit. I'm fine. He stared at me. You're shaking. I'm fine. You're lying. Yes. That at least was honest. He looked toward the vest. Do I need to be worried? I thought about the fake train wearing his face, the text he had actually sent, the way the station had known enough about him to make me let go. Yes, I said. Danny went quiet. I continued. If you hear someone downstairs calling my name tonight, don't answer. His face changed. What? If you see stairs that weren't there before, don't use them. Marcus, if your phone says I'm in the subway, don't come looking. He stood up. No, absolutely not. You don't get to come home looking like a corpse and say horror movie nonsense at me. I know. Then explain. I opened my mouth. The apartment lights flickered. Just once. From somewhere below us came a faint sound. A train announcement. Muffled through concrete. Impossible. Danny's apartment building had no basement station. It had a laundry room, storage lockers, and a boiler that sounded like it hated being alive. The nearest train stop was 6 blocks away. The announcement was too faint to make out, but I heard the rhythm, the chime, the pause. Then a woman's voice speaking through old speakers. Danny heard it too, his anger drained from his face. What was that? I stood. Do not answer anything that asks where you're going. The announcement came again, clearer this time. Attention passengers. Static. Then, service to Marcus Vale arriving shortly. My stomach dropped. Danny whispered, Why did it say your name? Because I wrote the final log. Because the station lost its name. Because I had made it miss its stop. And now it was trying to use me as one. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. Danny stared at it. Are you going to answer? No. It rang until it stopped. Then immediately rang again. Not my ringtone. An old mechanical bell. The fare booth phone. Ring. Pause. Ring. Pause. Do not count. I turned the phone face down. It kept ringing. Danny stepped back from it. What is happening? The hallway outside the apartment filled with light from under the front door. Not normal hallway light. Fluorescent. Flickering. Greenish. Train station light. A shadow passed beneath the door. Then another. Footsteps. Many footsteps. Passengers moving down the hall. Someone knocked. Tap, tap, tap. A woman's voice said, Excuse me, is this Marcus Vale? Danny looked at me. I shook my head. Do not answer. The voice tried again. Is this the Marcus Vale stop? I remembered the addendum. If passengers ask whether this is your stop, say, No trains stop here. I moved close to the door, but not too close. No trains stop here. The hallway went silent. Then a man said, irritated, Then why is it on the map? I did not answer. The footsteps resumed, moving past the apartment. The light under the door faded. My phone stopped ringing. Danny was pale. Okay, he said. Okay, I believe you enough to panic. I grabbed the folded addendum, Edith's note, and the lower crew page from my jacket. Then I called Kroll. I didn't expect him to answer. He did on the second ring. Tell me exactly what happened, he said. No hello, no surprise. I told him. The announcement under the building, the page stuck to my vest, the hallway passengers, the question at the door. Kroll was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Do you still have the final log wording?" I wrote, "Station name removed, no passenger service, no trains stop here, shift ended." He exhaled. "Good. Doesn't feel good. It could have been worse. It's using my name. Yes. How do I stop it? Don't let anyone else use it as a location." I looked at Danny. Too late, maybe. He had heard the announcement. Kroll said, "Is anyone with you?" "My cousin." "Did he hear it?" "Yes." "Did he answer?" "No." "Keep it that way." Danny mouthed. "Who is that?" I ignored him. Kroll continued, "The station is unnamed, but it's not gone. Removing the tile name made it lose its fixed stop. That means it will try to attach to the person who recorded the closure. You. Great. If your name appears on an official map before morning service, it anchors." "What official map?" "All of them. I thought of the app on my phone, transit maps, digital routes, station lists, search results, the city's nervous system." Kroll said, "Check your phone, but do not use voice search." I opened my transit app with shaking hands. At first, everything looked normal. Colored lines, stops, delays, service alerts. Then the map blinked. A station appeared under the loop where none should have been. Marcus Vale. It sat between active stops, a black dot on a gray line that did not exist. As I watched, a small service alert appeared. New station opening soon. I showed Danny. He whispered, "That's not funny." No. The app refreshed. Estimated arrivals, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Kroll said through the phone, "You need to remove yourself before the first train arrives." "How?" "Go back down." "No." "Yes." "No." Kroll. "The station has borrowed your name. You cannot delete a tile from an app. You have to remove the source." "The source is under the abandoned station?" "Not anymore," he said. "It will open wherever your name gets answered." A train rumbled beneath Danny's building. The floor vibrated. Not like a truck passing, like steel wheels under concrete. Danny looked down. "Marcus," Kroll's voice tightened. "Where are you?" "Cicero, apartment building." "Does the building have a basement?" "Yes." "Laundry room?" "Yes." "Do not take the elevator. We don't have one." "Good. Take the stairs. Bring chalk if you have it. Tape. Anything that can mark a wall. And bring the page." "What page?" "The addendum. It came out with you. It belongs to the station. That makes it a ticket back." "I hate that." "You're learning." The line crackled. Then Kroll said, "Marcus." "What?" "If you see me down there, ask who pays me." "What if the answer is guilt?" "Then it might be me." "Might? Don't get sentimental." He hung up. Danny stared at me. "You are not going alone. You are absolutely staying here." The hallway just turned into a train station. "Exactly." He grabbed his jacket. "Then I'm not staying alone either." I wanted to argue. Then the apartment lights flickered again, and the announcement came from below us. "Marcus Vale service arriving in 2 minutes." The floor trembled. If I left Danny upstairs, the station might come to him anyway. At least with me, he knew not to answer. "Fine," I said, "but you do exactly what I say." That has never been our dynamic. It is tonight. We went down the stairwell. The building smelled like old carpet, cooking oil, and radiator heat on the upper floors. By the second floor, the smell changed. Wet concrete, metal, ozone. By the first floor, The lights flickered green. At the basement door, someone had taped a printed transit notice. Service change. Marcus Vale Station. Temporary boarding below. Danny whispered, "Nope." I tore the notice down without reading the rest. The paper was warm. Behind it, written on the basement door in black marker, were the words, "No public egress." I opened the door. The stairs went down farther than they should have. Danny saw it. "Laundry's one flight." "Not tonight." We descended. 1 flight, 2, 3. The building disappeared behind us. The walls changed from painted drywall to concrete. Pipes appeared overhead. The air got warmer, then damp. At the bottom was a corridor lit by humming fluorescent tubes. I knew it. Not exactly the same as the service corridor behind the furniture store, but close enough. The station had borrowed Danny's basement the way it had borrowed my name. A wall map hung behind cloudy plastic. The shaded station rectangle had no name. Yet, the blank label pulsed faintly, waiting. Danny said, "I'm going to throw up. Do it quietly." "That doesn't help." We followed the corridor. Ahead, a steel service door stood open. Beyond it was the platform. Lake Morgan. No, not Lake Morgan anymore. The wall tile band was blank where Kroll and I had removed the name, but new letters had begun appearing. Not ceramic tiles, not yet. Just damp outlines forming on the wall. Marcus Vale. The first 3 letters were already solid. Mar. The platform looked higher than before, closer to street level somehow. The ceiling seemed lower. I could hear cars above, voices, a dog barking. The city was too close. A crowd waited on the platform. Modern passengers, dozens of them, people with phones, backpacks, grocery bags, work uniforms. They looked confused, but not terrified. That scared me most. The station was learning how to look inconvenient instead of impossible. A woman asked me, "Is this the blue line?" I said, "No trains stop here." She frowned. "Then why are we waiting?" "No trains stop here." Danny stayed beside me, eyes low. The old intercom clicked. Marcus Vale service arriving shortly. The unfinished wall letters darkened. Mark. I pulled out the addendum page. It had changed. The first lines were gone. Now it read, "If the borrowed name begins to set, remove every letter before arrival. If passengers remain when the last letter falls, they will choose the stop. If your companion hears home, cover his ears before he answers." I shoved the page at Danny. "Read silently." He did. His face went pale. Home? The far tunnel filled with light. Train approaching. I ran to the wall and grabbed the pry tool hanging from the folding table. The same one, or a copy, or the memory of it. The M tile was soft, still forming, but cold as ice under my hands. I dug the pry edge into it. The tile screamed. A man nearby said, "Hey, what are you doing?" "No trains stop here," I said. The train light grew brighter. Danny stood behind me, trying to block people from interfering. The M came loose. The station shuddered. Passengers flickered. Some vanished. Some became older. Some became wet. Some became nothing but outlines filled with static. The intercom said, "Station name error." I went for the A. A little boy tugged my sleeve. "Mister, does this go to Cicero?" I did not look at him. "No trains stop here." "But my mom said..." Danny grabbed my shoulder. "Don't." The boy's voice changed to Danny's mother. "Daniel, come upstairs. Dinner's ready." Danny stiffened. His mother had died when he was 17. The addendum. If your companion hears home, cover his ears before he answers. I dropped the tool, spun around, and slapped both hands over Danny's ears. too late? His mouth opened. I shouted, "No train stop here!" The voice of his mother stopped. Danny blinked hard. "What just happened?" "You almost answered," he swallowed. "Don't let me do that again." "I'll try." The train was close enough now that wind pushed down the platform. The doors were already open. Inside the train, I saw Danny's mother sitting at a kitchen table. Behind her, my mother. Behind her, Kroll's little girl in the yellow raincoat, Anna. Behind them, rows and rows of people waiting inside impossible daylight. The train had learned more homes. I pried the A loose, then the R. The solid part of Marcus vanished from the wall, but the next letters kept forming faster. QS Vale. The station was writing my name faster than I could remove it. Danny grabbed another tool from the table. "What do I do?" "No, I'm not answering. I'm helping." He attacked the far letters. VAI. The moment his tool touched the V, the platform lights went out. Instruction 2. If the lights go out, sit under the folding table and count the columns until they return. The folding table was behind us. The train was arriving. Passengers screamed. Danny swore. In the dark, the intercom said, "Count the columns." Column voices started again. 1, 2, 3. I grabbed Danny's jacket and dragged him down. Not under the table, against the wall beneath the name. If the station wanted us to count columns, we would not. If it wanted us away from the letters, we would stay. The train stopped. Doors open. Warm air poured out. 1,000 voices whispered, "Boarding." I felt hands brush my shoulders, passengers moving past us toward the open doors. No, if they boarded under my name, they would choose the stop. "Danny," I whispered, "when the lights come back, pull letters." "How will we know?" "We'll know." In the dark, someone crouched in front of me. I smelled old coffee and wet wool. Kroll's voice said, "You're doing it wrong." I asked, "Who pays you?" "Guilt. Maybe him, maybe not." "Then help," the voice said. "Remove the name from the map first." The wall is announcement. The map is authority. The lights came back. Kroll was not there. The train doors stayed open. Half the passengers were already inside. I ran to the wall map behind cloudy plastic. The blank station rectangle now read, Marcus Vale. The label was small, printed, official looking, worse than tile. I smashed the glass with the pry tool. The passengers screamed. The train announcement chimed. Doors closing. Good, close, leave. But the doors did not close. I reached into the map frame and tore at the paper. The label did not tear. It was not printed on paper. It was underneath, behind the map, carved into the back plate, a metal nameplate, Marcus Vale. The station had made me infrastructure. I pried at the plate. It held. Danny shouted behind me, "I can't keep up." I looked back. He had removed VAI from the wall, but the letters were reforming above him, bleeding through tile. QS Vale. Marcus. The train waited. Passengers inside stared out. All of them now had my face. Not perfectly, but enough. My eyes, my jaw, my tired expression. The station did not just want my name. It wanted copies. I slammed the pry tool under the map nameplate and used my whole weight. Nothing. The old fare booth phone rang. Somehow it sat beside the wall map now, cord stretching into nowhere. Ring, pause, ring, do not count, ring, pause. I kept prying. The phone receiver lifted by itself. Edith Sloane's voice came through. Use the token. What token? In your pocket. I had no token. Then I remembered the page stuck to my vest. A ticket back, not a token. But maybe the station didn't care about exact objects if they served the same purpose. I pulled out the addendum. It had folded itself into a small, hard circle, a transit token, stamped with no station name. I wedged it under the metal nameplate. This time, the plate shifted. The train screamed through its brakes, though it was not moving. Danny ripped another tile off the wall. The nameplate popped free. I caught it before it hit the ground. The map went blank. All the passengers inside the train turned toward me at once. The intercom said, "Station identification removed." The doors began to close. But one passenger held them open, a little girl in a yellow raincoat. Anna. She looked at the empty platform, then directly at me. "Tell my dad I waited," she said. The doors closed. The train pulled away into darkness. Every passenger vanished with it. The platform was empty, except for me and Danny. The wall tiles were blank again. The map was blank. The air stopped vibrating. For a second, I thought we had done it. Then the old supervisor voice came from the intercom. "Borrowed name removed. Replacement required." The crew-only hatch opened in the floor, same as before. Stairs leading down. This time, nobody stood at the bottom. Only a desk, a supervisor's desk. On it sat a blank nameplate. The city wanted a name, any name. A station without a name was a wound in the map. Danny whispered, "Do we run?" Before I could answer, Kroll came through the service door. Real Kroll. I knew because he looked terrified and exhausted and furious in exactly the right proportions. He carried a metal box under one arm. "Blue," he said. "Who pays you?" I asked. "Guilt." He looked at Danny. "You brought family." "Not by choice," Danny said. "Never is." Kroll looked at the open hatch. His face changed when he saw the desk below. "No. What? It wants a replacement name." I gathered that. Kroll set the metal box on the floor and opened it. Inside were old tiles, letters, the ones we had removed from Lake Morgan. Lakemorgan. "You kept them?" I said. "I didn't think the station was done. You could have mentioned that. I was hoping to be wrong." He took out the L. The open hatch below hummed. "No," I said. "If we put Lake Morgan back, it becomes fixed again. It opens. It stays down. With passengers." "No," Kroll said. "With me." Danny looked at him. "What does that mean?" Kroll ignored him and began arranging the tiles on the floor. Not Lake Morgan. Another name. Anna. My stomach dropped. "No." Kroll's hand shook as he held the tiles. "A station needs a name. A lost thing needs a stop. She has been down there since 1983 because I left her in a system I pretended I could manage." "Kroll, my name isn't Kroll." He looked at me then. "My name is Martin Sloan." "Sloan. Edith Sloan." My mouth went dry. "Edith was your wife," he nodded, "and Anna was your daughter. She followed Edith down during a maintenance call. I was supposed to be watching her. The station shifted. Track 3 opened. Edith went after her. I went for help." His laugh was hollow. Everybody always goes for help when they are afraid to go down. The hatch below glowed faintly. After that, I became Kroll. New contractor, new paperwork, new rules. Easier to be someone with no daughter. He placed the tiles ANNA beside the hatch. The station was silent. Too silent. I said, "If you name it Anna, what happens to her?" "She gets found. And you?" He looked into the hatch. "I supervise." Danny said, "That sounds like dying." Kroll smiled faintly. "Only if I'm lucky." I grabbed his arm. "No, we can find another way." That is what every bad decision sounds like right before it repeats. He pulled free. The supervisor voice said, "Replacement accepted pending authority." The blank nameplate on the desk below rose from the hatch and hovered at platform level. Kroll picked up the A-tile. His face was wet. "Anna Sloan," he said, voice steady. "Dismissed from service." The station shuddered. He placed the A onto the blank nameplate. Then N, then N, then A. Anna. The nameplate turned blue. The same blue as the old token booth. From deep below, a child laughed. Not bait, not mimicry. A real laugh, surprised and bright and gone too quickly. Kroll closed his eyes. "Hey, kiddo." The platform filled with daylight. Not train daylight, not false doors. Memory. A little girl in a yellow raincoat stood at the far end of the platform beside Edith Sloan. Edith looked at Kroll. She did not smile, but she nodded once. That was all he got. Maybe that was all he deserved. Kroll stepped toward them. The hatch widened into stairs. I reached for him again. He shook his head. "Do not follow maintenance through a crew door. Instruction 23. The door was marked crew only. It had not been there at the start of my shift. I stopped. Kroll walked down the stairs. At the bottom, he turned back. "One last instruction." I swallowed. "What?" "If the city asks for a supervisor, tell it the position is vacant." Then he descended. The hatch closed. The platform dropped. Not physically, positionally. The city above became farther away. The ceiling vibration faded. The station settled deep under Chicago, back where abandoned things belong. The wall map changed. The blank station rectangle disappeared entirely. No Lake Morgan, no Marcus Vale, no Anna, nothing. The wall tiles remained blank. The intercom crackled one final time. "Supervisor required." I said, "Position vacant." Static. Then, "Accepted." The service door opened. Danny and I did not run. We walked out through the corridor, up too many stairs, back into his apartment building basement. The laundry machines were humming. Someone had left wet clothes in a washer. A normal basement. A normal, terrible smell of detergent and old pipes. Danny sat down on the bottom stair and put his head in his hands. "I am never letting you pick your own job again." I laughed. I shouldn't have. But I did. By morning, the transit app showed no Marcus Vale station, no service alert, no black dot. The map was normal. Danny made pancakes because he said both of us needed aggressively normal food. Neither of us spoke much. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go. A voicemail appeared. I waited until Danny left the room before playing it. At first, there was static. Then Edith Sloan's voice. Final log accepted. A pause. Then a child's voice, Anna's, small and distant. "Thank you for not making me a stop." The message ended. I deleted it. It stayed deleted. That was how I knew it was real. I never saw Kroll again, or Martin Sloan. No obituary, no missing person report, no news story, nothing. Northline Municipal Services disappeared too. The diner where I had interviewed still existed, but no one remembered Mr. Kroll. The phone number went dead. The service door in the alley behind the furniture store was bricked over when I checked 2 weeks later. There was no scanner, no sign, no scratch marks, just brick. But Chicago is full of sealed doors. That is what I learned. Not all of them are hidden because there is nothing behind them. Some are hidden because the city learned not to give them names. I moved out of Danny's place a month later. I got work above ground. Day shift, building maintenance in an office tower. Boring stuff, light bulbs, HVAC filters, leaky sinks, people complaining that conference rooms are too hot or too cold. I like those complaints now. They are beautiful complaints. A person saying, the air conditioning is weird, is a blessing when the weirdness is only air conditioning. But I still follow certain rules. I don't stand near platform edges when children laugh. If a train passes without lights, I do not call it a train. If I see wet footprints coming from a wall, I walk the other way. If a station map changes while I'm looking at it, I stop reading immediately. And if I ever hear an announcement for a stop that has my name, I leave before the doors open. A few months after everything happened, Danny and I took the train downtown together. Real train, real station, crowded platform. People staring at phones, drinking coffee, arguing about delays. Normal. Then the announcement system chimed. Next stop, static. I went cold. Danny heard it too. His hand closed around my arm. The speaker hissed for maybe 2 seconds. Then it said the correct station name, a real one, a living one. The train arrived with lights on. Doors opened. People got off. People got on. Everything was fine. But as we boarded, I saw something scratched into the metal beside the door. Small, low, almost hidden by grime. No trains stop here. I did not tell Danny. Some warnings do not need to be shared twice. Last winter, the city announced renovation work near an old section of tunnel downtown. Just infrastructure upgrades, the article said. Utility relocation, track modernization, drainage improvements. One photo showed workers in orange vests standing beside a temporary wall. Behind them, partly covered by plastic sheeting, was a strip of old white tile. Blank tile. No station name. But on the floor in front of it sat a blue nameplate. The article did not mention it. I zoomed in until the image blurred. I could almost read the letters. Almost. I closed the page before I did. That night, I dreamed of a platform deep below the city, a folding table, a logbook, a smashed fare booth phone, a blank wall where a station name used to be, and a maintenance crew standing in a row, waiting for a supervisor who would never be assigned. At the front stood Kroll, or Martin. He wore an orange vest and held a clipboard. Behind him stood Edith and Anna. The old intercom clicked. A calm voice said, "Final inspection complete." Kroll looked up at the ceiling, like he could see me through all the layers of concrete and street and city. Then he shook his head once. Not warning, dismissal. I woke up before sunrise with the smell of wet concrete in my room. On my kitchen table sat one of the loose instruction pages. Not the addendum. Not Edith's note. A new one. White paper. Black marker, block letters. I read it silently. If the station has no name, do not give it yours. If the city asks who is responsible, say no one. If you hear your stop called from below street level, miss your train. At the bottom, in smaller handwriting, was one final line. Some places are safer abandoned. I burned the page in the sink. Then I wrote those 4 instructions down from memory. Because that is how these things survive without becoming traps. Carefully, briefly. Only what someone else needs to live. So if you ever take a maintenance job under Chicago and the crew leaves you instructions, read them. If the fare booth phone rings, let it ring. If the station clock appears, look away. If passengers ask when the next train arrives, say, "No trains, stop here." If someone asks when the last train left, tell them they missed it. And if the wall tiles rearrange into your name, remove every letter before the train arrives. Because the city remembers what it buries. It remembers old platforms, closed tunnels, workers who never clocked out, passengers who missed their stop and kept waiting. And under all that concrete, beneath the maps and tracks and service corridors, there are stations that still want to open. They don't need much. A door, a name, a passenger, a final log entry. So keep walking, miss the train, do not answer the phone, and whatever you do, if you find a station that isn't on the map, do not ask where it goes. It goes up.